More than 40 years ago, the headline shouted the unimaginable. Superman had killed himself. In death, it turned out, as in life, George Reeves was hopelessly typecast.
George Reeves was once the face of hope, embodying Superman for millions. But when he died at just 45, the man who seemed invincible was met with a quiet, nearly empty farewell and an unsettling silence from Hollywood. How does a beloved icon end up so alone? Beneath the cape was a life marked by heartbreak, fading opportunities, and whispers few dared to confront. This isn't just a tragic ending, it's a haunting look at an industry that turned away when it mattered most, leaving a legend's final chapter clouded in mystery. The rise of George Reeves. George Reeves's life began with instability and uncertainty that shaped much of his future. Born George Kiefer Brewer in Woolstock, Iowa, his parents separated almost immediately after his birth. His mother moved him across states, from Kentucky to Illinois and then California, constantly chasing a sense of stability that always seemed out of reach. In 1920, his mother remarried Frank Besolo, who adopted George and gave him the surname Besolo. But that marriage dissolved when George was just 13. The betrayal came when George's mother told him that Frank had died by self-inflicted death, a devastating lie that he would only uncover to be false years later. Frank Besolo actually lived until 1944, a fact that deepened George's scars of mistrust and confusion. Despite these early wounds, George found refuge in artistic pursuits. He attended Pasadena High School and Pasadena City College, where he sang, boxed, and most importantly, discovered a passion for acting. His enrollment at the Pasadena Playhouse was pivotal. It was here that he refined his craft and met Eleanora Needles, a fellow student from a family with circus roots. They married in 1940, though their marriage lasted only a decade. Early on, George's career was modest but promising. In 1939, he landed a small but noticeable role in the classic film Gone with the Wind, where he played one of Scarlett O'Hara's suitors. This exposed him to Hollywood, but didn't immediately propel him to stardom. The war disrupted his career path, which began when Reeves joined the United States Air Force in 1942 after he played a leading role in the World War II film So Proudly We Hail. His time in the military diminished his professional advancement, while it strengthened his ability to endure challenging situations. The Hollywood industry had undergone major changes when he returned in 1945 because studios began to reduce their operations, which led to fewer opportunities for new performers. George accepted every available opportunity, which resulted in him mostly working in inexpensive Western films and as a lesser character in various productions. He experienced distressing times during the years when he battled financial difficulties. At times, Reeves was forced to take menial jobs, including digging cesspools, to make ends meet. He worked at different studios such as Warner Brothers and 20th Century Fox, but he remained unsuccessful because he could not find his desired success. His performances in Dead Men Tell and From Here to Eternity proved his acting ability, but they did not establish him as a lead actor. The year 1951 brought a breakthrough for Reeves when he received his first lead role in Superman and the Mole Men. The project served as a movie and a TV show pilot for the Adventures of Superman series. He showed initial hesitation toward the project. The film industry saw television as a lesser form of media at that time because Reeves wanted to prevent himself from becoming known for specific roles. The financial situation provided him with a chance to launch his career while he studied the role. He accepted the offer, although he did not want to do so, because it forced him to play a character that established his public identity. The first episode of the show, The Adventures of Superman, aired in 1952, and it achieved instant success as a popular program. Reeves achieved widespread recognition as he brought Superman to life through his performance, which excited children and their parents throughout the United States. His success marked the beginning of a complicated struggle between his two major challenges of public recognition and being stuck in one role. The brief moment of fame which George Reeves experienced contained both elements of success and success, which turned into a struggle that would pursue him until his sudden passing. Even with his new fame, Reeves's struggle to break free from the shadow of the cape was only beginning. Becoming Superman. Landing the role of Superman launched George Reeves into the national spotlight almost overnight. His calm demeanor, strong presence, and approachable charm brought a beloved comic book hero to life in a way that made kids truly believe. Parents trusted him, children adored him, and Reeves embraced the opportunity to be a role model. He was committed, so much so that he refused to smoke in front of children, and even quit smoking entirely to maintain the hero's wholesome image. The set of Adventures of Superman reflected this commitment. Reeves's dressing room famously bore a sign that read, "Honest George, the people's friend," a testament to his dedication to kindness toward cast, crew, and fans alike. Public appearances filled his calendar. Hospital visits, photo sessions with kids, and even a memorable appearance on I Love Lucy in 1957 showcased his wide appeal. For a generation, Reeves was Superman, not just on screen, but in their hearts. Despite this overwhelming success, the role came with hidden costs. His contract imposed strict limitations that confined him exclusively to the Superman persona. Producers and casting directors ceased to view him as an actor with range. They saw only Superman. This immediate and harsh typecasting became a suffocating cage from which Reeves struggled to escape. Children thought he could fly, but Reeves remained restricted to his job. The fame that should have brought him opportunities instead created obstacles that prevented him from succeeding. He wanted to play different characters while he wanted to direct and develop new work, which would demonstrate his complete range of abilities. He experienced mounting frustration when his attempt to create the television show Port of Entry, which featured adventure stories in international settings, failed to attract funding. The salary showed him the truth about his situation. In his first years of work, he received only $1,000 for each episode, which represented a small payment during that period. His salary increased to $2,500 per week through raises, but he could only work for 3 weeks during each year, which caused him financial problems. The combination of professional stagnation and financial instability created a heavy burden for Reeves to bear. The 1953 film From Here to Eternity, which won the Best Picture award, did not succeed in changing Hollywood's view of him. The industry kept him restricted to Superman's character because they continued to see him that way. Friends report that he shared his belief that he could not escape his situation because he possessed talent but lacked freedom. He explained to co-star Jack Larson that although he had great affection for the character, it restricted his freedom. The public image of strength concealed the man who battled with his job difficulties and minimal career opportunities in secret. Reeves's experience demonstrates the duality of fame because people worship him as a symbol but refuse to see his personal identity. This tension in Reeves's life only increased when personal challenges and scandals emerged, matters that Hollywood preferred to keep in the shadows. Fame's double-edged sword. While George Reeves' Superman made him famous across America, it also isolated him within Hollywood's tightly controlled ecosystem. His newfound celebrity was a double-edged sword, loved by the public but boxed in by an industry unwilling to see him beyond the cape. Studios and casting directors viewed him solely as Superman, locking him out of diverse roles and creative control. This typecasting wasn't just professional, it seeped into Reeves's personal life. The pressures of being constantly associated with an iconic, morally perfect character left him struggling with his own identity and freedom. The contract forbidding outside roles meant he could neither test his range nor escape the limitations imposed on him. Despite his talents and ambitions, Reeves was trapped in a persona that had grown larger than the man himself. Adding to his strain was Reeves's complicated romantic life, a tangled web that pulled him further away from public sympathy. For years, he was involved with Toni Mannix, the wife of powerful MGM executive Eddie Mannix, a relationship that was an open secret, yet marked by tension and risk. Eddie Mannix was rumored to have ties to organized crime, a detail that introduced a dangerous undercurrent to the affair. In 1959, Reeves ended his liaison with Toni and became engaged to socialite Leonore Lemon. This shift unsettled Hollywood circles. Friends noted the actor's renewed optimism and hopes for a fresh start, but they also observed signs of exhaustion and vulnerability. The cumulative weight of professional frustration and personal turmoil was heavy. Behind the smiling face that charmed children across the country, Reeves endured a crushing isolation. Occasions that should have been celebrations instead highlighted his marginalization. Hollywood insiders distanced themselves, wary of scandal and uncomfortable confronting the fissures beneath his public image. Fame, which once promised freedom and opportunity, became a cage reinforced by contracts and whispered threats. Reeves's career stagnation reflected not only his typecasting, but also the power dynamics of a Hollywood unwilling to embrace complexity or controversy. As Reeves's world closed in, the events leading to his mysterious death began to unfold in an atmosphere thick with secrecy and suspicion. The contrast between the man behind the cape and the icon everyone recognized grew sharper as his story edged toward tragedy. Private life and scandal. Behind the public image of George Reeves as the virtuous Superman lay a tangled and often troubled private life. For years, Reeves was involved with Toni Mannix, the wife of MGM executive Eddie Mannix, in a relationship that was an open secret within Hollywood circles. This affair put Reeves in a precarious position, caught between powerful figures and discreet whispers. Eddie Mannix was believed to have connections to organized crime, adding an unseen layer of danger to the already volatile situation. This complicated romance continued for years, shadowing Reeves's personal and professional life. The relationship weighed on him as much as the typecasting that confined his career. In 1959, Reeves ended things with Toni Mannix and became engaged to socialite Leonore Lemmon. This change stirred tensions beneath the surface, unsettling Hollywood's intricate web of alliances. Close friends noticed a mix of hope and weariness in Reeves, sensing he wanted to start fresh, but was running on empty. Leonore Lemmon's presence introduced a new dynamic into Reeves's life. She was part of high society, and their engagement suggested a chance at stability and renewal. But the pressures Reeves carried from his past affair and Hollywood's unspoken rules made this shift anything but simple. At social gatherings, Reeves appeared optimistic, yet those close to him could see exhaustion and stress lingering beneath the surface. The combination of career obstacles and personal life issues created greater challenges for Reeves. The former embodiment of power now struggled with self-doubt, while his professional prospects continued to diminish. He wanted to direct and act in new projects, but only found limited chances to escape the Superman character that he played. His work environment at the time forced him to choose between two different types of relationships, which made his life more difficult to manage. Hollywood required people to remain silent about scandals, which created barriers that prevented him from accessing support networks throughout the industry. In his environment, Reeves needed to maintain absolute secrecy because every mistake could result in career and reputation damage. The environment required people to act cautiously and maintain secret information, which created distance between even their closest friends. The relationships between love interests, friends, and professional goals created a situation where everything depended on maintaining secrecy because one disclosure could break everything apart. The multiple romantic relationships in Reeves's life demonstrated his struggle to maintain control over his diminishing personal life. The public viewed him as a hero while he battled his uncontrolled feelings together with his divided loyalties. The present and the past created strange tensions that only a few outsiders could comprehend. Reeves ended his life with additional burdens because of this duality. The tragic events of that night occurred amid a complex web of relationships that included people from different backgrounds who pursued their personal ambitions while keeping their secrets hidden. The constant stress of his existence reached its maximum point at that moment when Reeves remained alone in his bedroom. Hollywood and its fans would always remember the private chaos which existed before the moment that became an essential part of their history. As the hours passed on June 16, 1959, George Reeves's story approached a grim and enigmatic climax, shrouded in confusion and unanswered questions. The night of death. In the early hours of June 16, 1959, the quiet of Benedict Canyon was shattered by a gunshot from inside George Reeves's home. Found lifeless upstairs in his bedroom, Reeves was only 45 years old. The scene was strange and unsettling. His handgun lay nearby, wiped clean of fingerprints, while investigators noted a spent casing beneath his body, along with a mark in the ceiling and additional bullet rounds in the floorboards. Yet those downstairs reported hearing only a single shot. That night, Reeves's fiancée, Leonore Lemmon, was downstairs with several friends in a lively, alcohol-fueled gathering. Reeves had gone to bed earlier, apparently weary from the noise and party. He briefly came downstairs to complain before retreating upstairs. These moments before the gunshot remain clouded in uncertainty, fueling speculation on what truly transpired. Leonore's reported remarks during the incident added ambiguity. Moments after Reeves went upstairs, Lemon allegedly told the friends, "He's going upstairs. Just wait." When the gunshot sounded, she said, "See, I told you." These phrases, recorded in police interviews, became focal points in later investigations, raising uncomfortable questions about the evening. The official ruling came swiftly. George Reeves's death was self-inflicted. Authorities cited stress, discouragement over his stalled career, and the pressures of typecasting as likely causes. Headlines screamed the blunt verdict of self-inflicted death, shocking a public that had idolized him as invincible. Yet, despite the official statement, doubts lingered immediately among those who knew him. Several inconsistencies deepened mistrust in the conclusion. No fingerprints were found on the weapon, and there was a significant delay, almost an hour, before police were called. The absence of witnesses to the actual gunshot and the conflicting accounts from guests created an atmosphere thick with suspicion. Reeves's mother, Helen, refused to accept the self-inflicted death ruling and sought legal counsel and private investigators to dig deeper. A second autopsy revealed unexplained bruises, but nothing conclusive enough to overturn the original findings. Theories flourished. Claims of accidental discharge during a quarrel, potential foul play linked to Hollywood power players, or despair culminating in a tragic act. None were ever proven, leaving Reeves's death enveloped in mystery and controversy. Friends and colleagues voiced skepticism over the years. Actors like Rory Calhoun expressed disbelief in the self-inflicted death narrative, as did Alan Ladd and Gig Young, both doubting the simplicity of the official story. Rumors swirled, some implicated Leonore Lemon, others Tony Mannix or Eddie Mannix, each theory entwined with Hollywood's murky underbelly. The truth of that night in Benedict Canyon remains elusive. Even decades later, Reeves's death continues to provoke debate and reflection. His story was dramatized in the 2006 film Hollywoodland, which explored multiple interpretations but favored self-inflicted death without ruling out alternatives. This ongoing uncertainty underscores how deeply Reeves's life and death incarnate the perils of fame and the limits of the public's perception. The stark contrast between the public hero and his quiet, complicated demise left a legacy tinged with tragedy, one that would only grow darker with the silence that followed his passing. The lonely farewell awaiting Reeves was a haunting reminder of the cost paid when Hollywood's bright lights dim without warning, and the man beneath the mask is left alone in the shadows. The funeral no one attended. When news of George Reeves's death broke, the world expected a grand farewell for the man who had been Superman to an entire generation. He was a cultural icon, a symbol of hope and strength for millions of children. Yet, when the day of his funeral arrived on July 1st, 1959, at the Wayside Chapel of the Gates Funeral Home in Los Angeles, the scene was starkly different. Only a handful of mourners showed up: his mother Helen, his attorney Jerry Giesler, and a few close friends. Not a single major Hollywood star or co-star was publicly recorded as attending. The emptiness was not for lack of respect, but fear and caution. Reeves's death was wrapped in scandal and suspicion. Rumors of self-inflicted death, accident, or even slaying filled the headlines. Hollywood's powerful figures wanted no association with controversy that might threaten their own positions. The affair Reeves had with Tony Mannix, wife of MGM executive Eddie Mannix, a man rumored to have ties to organized crime, created a dangerous undercurrent many preferred to avoid. Few in the industry were willing to risk angering Eddie Mannix by showing public support at the funeral. Attending could have meant placing themselves on the wrong side of Hollywood's silent power struggles. This fear extended beyond mere social risk. It was a calculated move in a landscape where reputation and alliances dictated survival. The shadow of organized crime and whispered threats loomed large over Hollywood's response. The lack of presence showed how completely Reeves had been separated from the world outside his Superman character, according to some people. The casting directors and producers of the film industry could only view him as Superman, instead of recognizing him as an actor and friend. His professional and personal life faced isolation because the industry cast him into specific roles, which made people stay away from him. Reeves had reached full fame with audiences, but Hollywood considered him outside its main celebrity network by the end of the 1950s. Some co-stars from the show. The adventures of Superman, who had stood by him during his most successful period, chose not to attend the funeral or speak to the media about it. The hero received a final tribute, which showed up as an uninhabited space because of three factors: fear, neglect, and deliberate avoidance. The absence of Reeves at his send-off created a frightening representation of how Hollywood studios would quickly discard their artists after scandals and doubts emerged. Helen Reeves experienced her own sorrow through the deep solitude brought on by that particular day. She dedicated her entire efforts to investigating the details surrounding her son's passing, instead of organizing a formal public event. She made this statement about her intentions in an interview because she wanted to show her commitment to justice. George was her only priority because she wanted to bring his story to justice. She dedicated herself to discovering the truth about the case, while the industry abandoned the actor who once fascinated the whole world. The empty funeral showed how fame combined with hidden information and fear caused extreme human suffering. The man who gave people hope was buried without any ceremony, which showed the hidden dangers that operate within Hollywood. The situation served as a serious reminder that famous people can both receive protection and experience social seclusion. Yet even in the shadows of that quiet farewell, Reeves's name and legacy were not destined to fade completely into obscurity. A story that had been concealed in silence would soon reverberate through Hollywood and beyond, igniting debates and mysteries that persist today. Theories and speculations. The circumstances surrounding George Reeves's death have sparked decades of debate, theories, and speculation, none definitive, all haunting. Despite the official ruling of self-inflicted death, numerous inconsistencies and unanswered questions have led many to doubt the accepted narrative. Friends, colleagues, and fans have long questioned whether Reeves's death was as straightforward as authorities claimed, suggesting more complex and darker possibilities. One prevailing suspicion involves foul play, possibly connected to Reeves's romantic entanglements. Some theories implicate Leonore Lemon, his fiancée, with motives ranging from jealousy to self-preservation. Others suggest extremist involvement from Tony Mannix or Eddie Mannix, figures enmeshed in Hollywood's shadowy power structures, and rumored organized crime ties. Actors like Rory Calhoun openly expressed disbelief in the self-inflicted death story, believing Reeves's death was something Hollywood quietly covered up. Similar doubts were voiced by Alan Ladd and Gig Young, both of whom questioned the circumstances and the official investigation's thoroughness. Their skepticism highlights the divide between what was concluded officially and what was sensed privately within the industry. Authors Sam Kashner and Nancy Schoenberger revived and intensified these suspicions in their book Hollywood Kryptonite, arguing that the darker forces of the industry may have had a hand in Reeves's demise. Their work interprets the case as emblematic of Hollywood's dangerous interplay of power, secrecy, and control, where inconvenient truths are silenced and reputations preserved at any cost. Details like the lack of fingerprints on the weapon, the delay in calling authorities, and conflicting eyewitness accounts fuel alternative explanations. Some propose an accidental shooting during an argument, while others think despair may have driven Reeves to a tragic moment. No consensus exists, and no conclusive evidence has emerged to settle the matter. The truth about the case remains hidden, despite the completion of autopsies and investigations and the public's interest in the matter. The official reports have faced challenges from others, but those attempts failed to change the determination which found that Reeves died by self-inflicted means. The combination of conflicting witness accounts and missing proof makes it more difficult to understand the situation, which has resulted in the creation of a cultural myth about the actor's last moments. The persistent interest in Reeves's death demonstrates how celebrity status leads to personal disintegration. The research reveals how Hollywood has maintained its hidden darkness by presenting an image of glamorous heroes, while personal tragedies transform into public spectacles that remain unsolved. The story of Reeves demonstrates how the entertainment industry operates with unyielding standards that produce disastrous results for performers who work within it. Hollywoodland, through its 2006 release, brought the mystery back to modern audiences by presenting various theories while refusing to reach a final solution. The depiction of Reeves maintained his reputation as a tragic hero who became trapped in the role that brought him success. The ongoing discussion demonstrates how his narrative creates opportunities for people to think about their personal identities, their experiences with fame, and their feelings of loss. The inquiries into George Reeves's death persist because the case includes elements that will never be solved. His existence and demise serve as a source of examination, which shows how easily people transform into legends and how the power of a cape can hide deep-seated human fragility. The silence at his funeral was not the end of the conversation, but the beginning of an enduring enigma that still captivates to this day. Legacy and remembering Reeves. Though George Reeves's funeral was a quiet and almost empty affair, his legacy was far from forgotten. Just a year after his death, in 1960, the television industry recognized his impact by awarding him a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. This honor acknowledged his groundbreaking role in shaping the character of Superman for millions, a role that had forever changed how superheroes were perceived on screen. Reeves had brought a sense of sincerity and approachability to the iconic character that resonated deeply with audiences. In 1985, DC Comics further cemented his place in history by listing him among the 50 people who made the company great. His portrayal of Superman became a defining image of the hero for decades, influencing how future actors and creators approached the role. As much as the industry distanced itself from him at the end of his life, the cultural imprint Reeves left endured. His image burned into the memories of a generation raised on adventures of Superman. Yet, Reeves's story is not simply one of legacy and nostalgia. The mysterious circumstances of his death continued to stir controversy and fascination. Friends of Reeves, including actor Rory Calhoun, publicly doubted the official self-inflicted death narrative. Others, such as Alan Ladd and Gig Young, shared similar suspicions, pointing to a possible cover-up enveloped in Hollywood's darker side. These doubts contributed to an ongoing conversation about what really transpired in that Benedict Canyon home. Writers Sam Kashner and Nancy Schoenberger revived interest in Reeves's death with their book Hollywood Kryptonite. They argued that unseen forces within the industry could have played a role, suggesting that Reeves might have been silenced or forced into tragic circumstances. Their work brought renewed attention to the mysteries and scandals that Hollywood had concealed beneath its glamorous exterior, painting Reeves's demise not just as personal tragedy, but as a symbol of the industry's ruthless undercurrents. The movie Hollywoodland from 2006 presents 4 different theories about Reeves's death through its dramatization of his life story. The movie presented self-inflicted death as the most likely explanation for Reeves's death, but it showed Reeves as a tragic character who suffered from his dual existence between success and downfall. The film showed viewers that the man who wore the cape wanted to experience life beyond his superhero identity. People have shown strong emotional responses to Reeves's impact throughout history. A computer-generated image of him as Superman appeared briefly in the film The Flash. Fans reacted negatively to the tribute scene because they believed it showed disrespect to the serious nature of Reeves's tragic life and death. The public response demonstrates how his story still affects people today, as they experience emotional reactions about fame and the real person who existed behind the famous figure. George Reeves lived his life through this double-edged sword, which brought him both fame's greatest moments and its most destructive effects. He portrayed Superman as an unbeatable hero whom people could believe existed in real life. The personal story of Reeves showed how being recognized through one famous role would cause him to experience social isolation. The empty burial of Reeves, together with his unsolved death from many years ago, still serves as a strong warning about how quickly Hollywood will turn its back on its stars whenever they face scandals. The legacy George Reeves left behind comes with 3 main elements, which include admiration for his work, ongoing unresolved issues, and the lasting impact of his death. Superman remains his most famous role, which represents the golden age of television through its storytelling power. George Reeves's story is a sobering reminder of fame's fleeting nature and the cost of being trapped by a single role. While beloved by millions, his lonely farewell shows how Hollywood often turns away when scandal and fear arise. If you found this story compelling, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood's hidden histories. Share your thoughts below. What do you think really happened to George Reeves?